yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is the second day of December, 23 days to Christmas, and you can tell with the smiles on our faces and the Monday blues. Siku kuambia tuvae blue, but
since I got the memo.
Yes, most definitely. A lot is going to be happening this particular week, and we're going to be right there with you. This is Morning Cafe. I'm used to standing in Ringita.
Happy New Month. I am George Maringa, sitting in for Fred Indimule. Of course, as we usher in the new month of December, a lot will be happening, especially this month, and a lot will also not be happening. Remember, the houses will be going on recess. Some county assemblies have already gone on recess. So politically, a few things could be taking a nosedive, but even as we prepare for the festive season, but still, the conversations will continue. Thank you for joining us. On the socials, you can find us at
TV47 News, that is on X. At TV47KE on Facebook. And for SMS number 22047, 0793-267-279 is our WhatsApp number. Karibu sana and chime in our conversations. We're going to be having this gentleman on State of the Nation.
Yes, so we're going to have Philip Kise, he's a leadership and governance expert, as well as Kipruto Arap Kira, former agriculture cabinet minister, as well as Samuel Pugisho, former majority leader of the Kenya Senate and former ICT minister. Of course, even as we look at what's happening in the world of politics, as we try to make sense of how our nation, how the country is going politically.
Oh yes. From matters politics to sports, Monday Blitz, your weekly dose of sports. Joseph Kure, he's a sports analyst, is going to be joining Fred Roach as well as Shutterboy. Just taking a look at the English Premier League as it's going on. I know you're not an ardent fan, but vitu zinachemka pale in EPL.
I have seen, that's why it's such a safe space, it's such a safe time to not have an opinion right now because guys are boiling.
Oh yes, but then locally, the countdown to Kandanda House, the FKF presidential elections, the countdown continues, and we're going to be unpacking that for you at around 8 to 9. And then after that, we get into another very serious conversation, manufacturing and its economic role. The nation is really, and the government is really big on manufacturing, but then what role does it play? Peter Ndichu, he's a manufacturing director at Gachagua Industries. He'll be joining us for that. A quick look at the headlines, locally as well as regionally. Start off with the Standard. It says ODM in Ruto dilemma.
Such an interesting headline, especially after the broad-based government was formed. Good to see. We'll be giving you more details on what exactly the dilemma is all about.
Yes, you'll realize the headlines today are varied as they come.
Yep.
On Daily Nation?
On Daily Nation, it says MPs bid to block job cuts in civil service. Public servants at the national and county levels, so positions that are abolished will be shielded from losing their jobs. We want to tell you more in just a bit. That's what in the headlines on the Daily Nation.
Quite a long headline for a Monday morning. A very short headline, very precise. This is Taifa Leo. Wanasema Gachagua alijitega.
Mambo ya mitego.
Maneno mawili amesema mengi hapo.
Kabisa. Of mitegos and other things.
Yes.
Yes. On the Business Daily, Aurora and Kimore dams back in Adani-type deals. And of course, the Treasury report shows that 2 dams are in the PPP's list, public-private partnership
list. We'll be back to tell you all that and why Elon Musk is also on the front page of Business Daily. On People Daily, a very worrying headline for Monday morning. Alama's 2,600 kids die of AIDS. Now this comes on the backdrop of the commemoration of World AIDS Day that happened yesterday. It's an annual event. Every 1st of December, we mark World AIDS Day. So a number of these headlines are going to be talking about AIDS as we continue. That is People Daily. Before we take a look at the East African, we do have the
Star.
Yes, the Star here. The physical copy. It says Chirchir and Kagwe top list for interior docket. Ukiwa pale nyumbani. Yes. Wacha niweke hivyo watu. Okay, all right. Okay. We'll be back to tell you all that and show you the faces that are on the front page of the Star. To regional matters now.
Full entry for new EAC chairperson, who is none other than Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Kenya's president. He's taken over the mantle from Salva Kiir Mayardit of South Sudan for the chairmanship of the EAC. And of course, he's made in several promises. We will wait to see the assignment that the new boss of the East African community has in the coming tenure.
Yes. From regional matters now to Uganda.
Yes.
And NAK Kenya Leader Party, Mother Karua her name is on the front page, her face is also on the front page. They say Karua faces Waiting Besiegers trial. Day in court, by last evening, it was increasingly becoming difficult for Kenya's former Justice Minister, Mother Karua, to lead the 50-member legal team representing Dr. Kizza Besigye at the court-martial in Kampala today. So just to quote what Karua said, and I quote, "I applied for special practicing license in Uganda. My application was received and stamped on Thursday, as the 28th of November, and I've not received an answer. But I'm very hopeful that tomorrow, which is not today, they will grant me the license."
Yeah.
So this politics continues. There's also a quote there by the Law Council Chair, Justice Irene Mulyagonja. Yes.
She arrived yesterday. We wait to see how that lead council and that whole court process plays out, especially in our neighboring Uganda.
Yes, and Kenya is really focusing on this case. Remember, in case you're just seeing this for the first time, there was the abduction of the opposition leader of Uganda, Besigye, right here in Kenya. Then he was taken back to Uganda, so it's a very key thing even for Kenyans.
Yeah, sure.
Tuingie pale Tanzania.
Mzigo unaowakabili wenye viti wa mitaa.
Yes. So now last week, Tanzania was having the civic polls. And now the civic polls is basically Tanzania electing, you see, for the streets, they have the leaders, so they elect their leaders. Let's say wherever you live, you elect your leaders hapo kwa streets and that community around you. So Mwananchi focuses on what the entry of this people who were elected. Migogoro ya ardhi ni mojawapo, ofisi zao ni mwanzo wa kimbilio la wananchi napotokea migogoro ya ardhi au mipaka. Something else, ulinzi na usalama, kupambana na changamoto za matendo ya uhalifu katika maeneo yao ya uongozi. Na jambo lingine ni kesi za mikopo, ni kupokea kesi za watu kudai na kudaiwa, ikiwamo mikopo umiza. Yes.
A lot will be coming in from Tanzania as well. Kuna pia mambo yanavyochochea maambukizi ya VVU, kurasa virusi vya ukimwi.
Naam.
VVU. Huku tunajua kama HIV ama AIDS ama ukimwi.
Naam.
VVU, virusi vya ukimwi. Ndivyo hali ilivyo. Hivi ndivyo kigogo ACT alivyotekwa. ACT is chama fulani, ACT Wazalendo. Wakati tukio la mwenyekiti wa ngome ya vijana ya ACT Wazalendo Abdul Ndondo kudaiwa kutekwa na watu wasiojulikana likiibua mjadala.
Masuala ya utekaji nyara yazidi kupewa kipaumbele kule Tanzania, si masuala mageni huku Kenya. On the front page of the Citizen, Amson's takeover bid rival faces 90 billion. Now get this isn't Kenyan shillings, this is Tanzanian shillings. Ikiconvertiwa into Kenya, hesabu ya haraka itakuwa I don't know how much. Fraud charges the founder of a company that is competing with Tanzania's Amson's group to take over Kenyan cement manufacturer Bamburi has appeared in court in Nairobi on 4.5 billion Kenyan shillings. It's about 90 now, US Abuyaraka now. The 90 billion is 4.5 billion
shillings.
Yes.
Fraud charges.
Yes.
There seems to be a lot, especially in companies and getting into fraud and their figures involved.
And Kenya being involved in fraud.
Yes, Kenya being entangled, finding itself entangled in these situations. We wait to see how all this plays out, especially as we close the year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Citizen. What do we have next?
Something else also interesting here. Now, you rarely get to see politics on the front pages of Tanzanian papers. But the fact that they just had their civic polls and their wait for the national elections next year. This conversation continues. What opposition should do to bounce back in 2025 elections? With Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM having virtually swept the board in last week's local government elections, analysts have urged opposition parties to address internal weakness, strategic missteps, and systemic challenges if they hope to have an impact in next year's general election. Now, George, when you look at that advice, does it mirror anything that we see in Kenya?
Yeah, it does, it does.
Well,
and this one I want to plead the fifth.
I think this is something that the gentleman on State of the Nation should tell us. Is this something that opposition parties in Kenya should also be looking at?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's tell them how the weather is looking like. Especially today, there was, I don't know whether you experienced showers in your area.
No.
Oh, it was
the morning,
last night?
I am not sure. I probably was sleeping. But hey, where you are, was it raining? Has it been raining this week?
Yeah.
Well, in Lodwar, it's not going to be raining. It's going to be very, very hot today. Some clear blue skies. The highest temperatures that you're going to be seeing today in Lodwar are as high as 33 degrees.
Yes.
Where?
There's actually, over the week, there's going to be a high of actually 35 on Wednesday.
Yes. Where?
In case you're traveling there for assignment or you're there, please prepare yourself. In Kisii,
the Nyanza region.
It's a high of 24, a low of 15. There is chances of precipitation.
8.9 is quite high.
8.9 is quite high. Now there is 5%, heading all the way to proper rains and showers into the evening, and all the way also throughout the week to next week, but it could be getting warmer next week as well. Take us to Murima.
Yes, in the central part of the country, no chances of raining today.
Yeah.
It's right now it's a bit chilly. It's 16 degrees Celsius, 0.8 millimeters. This goes to show that in Muranga, don't really expect quite the rainfall. As you can see, the entire day, it's going to be blue skies. Tuende kule Mombasa. Mombasa inakoga. Actually, if you're planning to travel to Mombasa this particular week. And this particular month for the holidays, this is something important for you.
Yeah. There, this morning there is chance of rain all the way to 9 o'clock. Precipitation is just about 1.5 millimeters, not very high.
Yes.
And, heading all the way to, it's going to get warmer as we proceed into the week. Later into the week, Monday, Tuesday, colder. Wednesday all the way to Wednesday next week is going to be very warmer. Let's finally see the capital is doing.
The city under the sun.
The city under the sun, or the clouds right now, if you were to call them. Lows of 16, highs of 24. Precipitation, actually, 0. There's no zero chance of rain. But, of course, some areas are very, rainy. Especially last night, there was quite some heavy showers in some parts. And that's what is happening in Nairobi. Just pretty much looking like the same for the entire week. The weekend is going to be, for those who have small meetings here and there, it's looking good from Friday all the way to Sunday. So it's not a very bad week, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when George says small meetings, it means harusi.
Yes.
In ile mwezi harusi, so you definitely need to know.
How booked are your weekends? Right now you try to look for anyone. They have a Rurasho, they have a Koito, Nyombo, or a wedding.
Yes.
A lot is really happening.
So be very keen on how the weather is going to be looking like. Something else that you're going to be very keen on is what is going to be happening this week and also particularly today. The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence enters week 2 this particular day today. So quite a number of activities are going to be happening in different parts of the country, conferences just to really give prominence to this conversation. Something else happening in health matters, the staff at Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital will be meeting today, some media briefing. We're very keen just to see what is going to be happening in this particular media briefing now that the whole pay for doctors, and that controversy really continues. George, that is just a nutshell of what we do expect in our news diary and in our news bulletins. Stick around for that. Right now, though, let's take a keen look at the local dailies and what to expect. Right, Masaya Magazeti sasa, as we take a look at what is happening on the dailies. On the Standard, ODM in Ruto dilemma. It's been a minute since we did see this photo of where the broad-based conversation began. And they say officials of opposition party are split on whether to back President William Ruto or field a candidate in the next election. Now, while Raila Odinga said the party will field candidates, some feel it will be a better gamble to back the current government and wait another 5 years. There's a quote there by Treasury CS, John Badi, who was the former, well, he was an official in Orange Democratic Movement Party. Says, Ruto and the entire Rift Valley supported us in 2007. It is only fair for us to support him as a community in the next general election. Now, that really raises questions.
It seems the whole issue of broad-based, it seems the whole issue of Yangu Tano, Yako Tano is back in a different format altogether, right? Now, if you proceed also on the front page, because yesterday was also World AIDS Day, fear trends pushed me to put my girls on anti-HIV drugs. After seeing girls and young women infected with the deadly virus, Migori father took his daughters for tests and administered PrEP, that is the pre-exposure prophylaxis. And also locals suffer from the disintegration of Moi University, that is on page 6 and 7, and Kalonzo and clergy slam government over unfulfilled promises. By the way, did you see yesterday, Kimani Ichung'wah, a Kikuyu member of parliament and majority leader, emphasized they have not received a dime.
Okay.
Yes, they were the president in Kajiado, whereas Archbishop Philip Anyolo said they have returned every shilling. So it's a wait and see about this return and back to sender situation.
On page 2 is a conversation that many Kenyans are still waiting, the countdown for the Africa Union Commission chairman, chairperson. The countdown continues. They say boost for Raila's AU seat quest as Mauritius backs him. Rival quits. They say his journey, Raila Odinga's campaign reports positive gains. This elections will be happening on February 2025. So it's about give or take 2 or 3 months for those elections to happen.
Are you able to read the name of the Madagascar candidate? It's on page 2.
Well, okay, let me try. Fauzia Adam.
And now the Richard who? Here.
Oh, okay, wow. Raila will face Mahmoud Yusuf of Djibouti and Richard Mandato of Madagascar.
Of Madagascar. The successful candidate needs 2/3 of the votes cast, which this season is 32. You can expect when the commentation starts, it will be quite a mouthful for whoever will be on matters, election and watching and following and trying to speak about it.
Yes. The back page of the Standard is matters sports for Manchester United fans, like I am. There's a very beautiful.
You just had to.
I know. I mean, it's been a long while since we saw positive news together with in the same sentence, Manchester United and some positive news. It is on the back page. Stick around for 8 a.m. for Monday Blitz. It's going to be there. On Daily Nation?
On Daily Nation, the headline, MPs bid to block job cuts in civil service. Public servants at the national and county level whose positions are abolished will be shielded from losing their jobs under a proposed law. If the Public Service Human Resources Management Bill 2024 currently before the National Assembly becomes law in its current form, employees whose positions became redundant will be redeployed. There seems to be an issue, especially on matters the National Assembly, you did see about 200 of them who were allegedly having fake papers were sent home. They were risking losing their jobs. So we wait to see how that plays out. But there is also, did Kenyatta National Hospital overwork young doctor to death? It's on the front page of the Daily Nation as well, Stanley.
Yes.
Yeah. That on the night on November 22nd, rather, a fatigued Dr. Timothy Riungu, 35 years old, a pediatrician at Kenyatta National Hospital, returned to his apartment in Upper Hill and sat on his couch to rest. For nearly a month, Dr. Riungu, a surgical registrar in the Department of Surgery at KNH, had been on duty round the clock, a grueling routine that had taken a toll on him. The doctor, who was diabetic, had also not taken leave for the 2 years he had been working at the facility. Did KNH fail the young doctor? That's a story on page 2 and 3 following the death of the intern doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
On the right, even as we continue the countdown of the 16 days of activism against GBV, there's a story there, very horrific story. They say, Night of Horror, How My Former Lover Nearly Killed Me. That is a narration there by Gloria Seriana. How she left an abusive relationship 2 months ago, renting her own house, and thought she was free. But then the man tracked her down and unleashed the worst. On the back page...
That's just so wrong.
Yes. Echoes of Kiptuma's Sawe shreds Valencia field. Some nice... let's say world half marathon champion Sebastian Sawe of Kenya has pocketed a cool 10.7 million cash shillings after winning Valencia Marathon in the 5th fastest time ever. Nafaa tupigie Sawe makofi.
Yeah.
Sawe, congratulations. But I love the fact that they call 10M a very cool digit.
Yeah. Very cool digit. A lot is happening. Of course, on the national news of the Daily Nation on page 8, Limuru, a port for brewing Gikuyu resistance, settling political scores. We did see the interview that the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua held. And over the years on Mount Kenya, political actors have congregated in Limuru. The political arena has shaken. Detentions have followed. That is a story following the, interesting narrations and lifting of the lead by former DP Jeffrey Rigathi Gachagua.
Right. That is the Daily Nation. Let's see on the next page, kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo. You mentioned Rigathi Gachagua and the kind of narrations. Now, there's a whole plot twist of what Azimio leader, not former Azimio leader Raila Odinga and the AUC chair candidate says, sema Gachagua alijitenga. Raila afanyie utani mikakati aliyekuwa naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua kumzuia yeye kuingia Ikulu ama kushirikiana na Rais Ruto. Asema mitego ya Gachagua iliishia kumnasa mwenyewe na kwamba anafaa kujilaumu kwa masaibu yake. Sema kabla ya kung'atuliwa ofisini, Gachagua alisema Raila hakuwa na mwanya wa kuingia katika serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Akiendelea kusema ameka mitego kwenye Ikulu.
Wagu alipata paguzi is what I was trying to talk about.
This conversation will continue and it will, a number of politicians and a number of people in the political class will definitely be talking about what Gachagua said yesterday. So we'll be keeping you abreast on that.
Yeah.
Pale chini, madeni ya serikali yatishia hospitali nchini. Licha ya ahadi ya Rais Ruto, licha ya ahadi ya Rais kutoa pesa kulipa madeni, asasi hizi bado hazijapokea hela.
Ukurasa wa pili, mbunge wa Githunguri Gathoni wa Mushomba sasa atawazwa mbunge bora. Ukakamavu wake katika kazi ya kutetea raia wampa tuzo 2 Kiambu na kitaifa. Ukurasa wa 10.
We should be seeing both members of parliament getting some of this.
Yes.
I mean, for Mushomba, it has been visible. We have been seeing her out here doing civic education and such like. So
absolutely.
Congratulations to Wamushomba.
All the best to her.
Toa maoni yako tuboreshe ufadhili vyuoni. Hiyo ni kulingana na Wizara ya Elimu ambayo sasa inataka wewe kama Mkenya utoe maoni yako ili wajue jinsi ya kuondoa utata ufadhili vyuoni. Kule juu masuala ya ugatuzi, sema maseneta watolea kucha magavana fisadi. Seneta wataka EACC ichukulie hatua wezi wa mali ya umma katika kaunti zote.
Kabisa. Of course, Aurora and Kilmarel dams back in Adani type of deals, public partnership, private partnership, as well as, going by the Treasury report that shows the 2 dams are in the PPP's list. Chinese firm to build, operate Galana Dam for 30 years. And that's a story that you can find on the front page of the Business Daily. And why Kenya will not probe Elon Musk's Starlink on pricing. Have you been seeing those Starlink's products on the supermarkets? Yes. They're readily available.
Yes, yeah. And the whole competition of that, a number of competitors were raising eyebrows on that, but the Competition Authority of Kenya says it will not investigate the Starlink of accusations that the satellite internet firm is engaging in predatory pricing to edge out competitors.
Yeah.
Why? You can read that there. There's a quote there. They say, in order to investigate a case of predatory pricing under the Act, the law requires that the entity in question must either be dominant or possess market power in Kenya and engage in conduct that projects was inflated and that the contracts are awarded without regard to procurement laws. So yes, that is just why the Competition Authority of Kenya might not really be investigating hiyo story ya Starlink. Inasema bado haijakuwa dominant vizuri in the country.
The Star has really an interesting headline. The jostling for the replacement of Kindiki in the interior docket.
Right.
The Chirchir and the Kagwe top list for interior docket. And of course, both have served in the previous cabinets as well. There was also the jostling. There are other names because, of course, Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi is also acting interior CS. Transport CS Davis Churchill, ex-health CS Mutai Kagwe, Kikuyu MP Kimani Ishongwa. A lot to expect, especially on matters that replacement. These are names that the reason this is very important is because it is in the same breath of replacement of names that we haven't seen even constituencies that have not yet been filled, counties, rather wards which have fallen vacant following the passing on of several people or seats falling vacant. So it's quite interesting to see these replacements in the bid, or rather in the wake of all these political activities that we are seeing all year round.
And that definitely means the president will have to be very keen to see who is going to choose.
Yes.
If you choose an elected member of parliament, then that would mean, again, as you say, going back to Debe.
Yeah, going back to Debe.
Other conversations on the front page of the Star. Kule juu, Raila takes AUC campaigns to Djibouti, home turf of opponent. At the very bottom, the Gen Z are back on the front pages. They say, bold prison officer who joined Gen Z June demos, honored by rights group. Right, interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
Something else here, MPs answer Kenyans on 6 billion losses burden, high costs of electricity, and still on matters, this is matters health now, single dose HPV vaccine to protect 2.7 million girls against cancer. That is according to experts. That is the front page of the Star. Finally, on the People Daily, as we take a look at the cartoons.
Alarm as 2,600 kids die of AIDS. Yesterday was World AIDS Day. Our senators have summoned also Julius Ogamba of a CBC classrooms. They say 19,000 will be constructed by next year. Of course, we have to see how that plays out. And also, there is the issue of children left behind by British soldiers struggle to obtain IDs. That is on the People Daily.
Also, they say Kenya upon the red wants Auditor General.
Yeah.
So chunga sana stima isipote has been a very high trend in the country.
Yes.
And to the cartoons, ladies and gentlemen, we start off with the People Daily. This is Stano's take. And on the left, Azimio with Raila. And he has that playing nicely.
Violin.
The violin, beg your pardon. And The orange looks perfect, very healthy. But Azimio without Raila?
It's just peels, peelings.
That speaks highly.
Yeah.
The gentleman for State of the Nation will be telling us what that means.
Yes.
This is a Daily Nation.
Are those of the affordable housing towers? No, these are the sectors pending bills because, you know, of course, in the era of manufacturing and construction, the pending bills seem to be way higher. They are clocking over 10 billion now. That's a really high amount. And there has been that pending bills committee to try and sift out. But of course, without the money in circulation, a few people have also expressed fears of supplying and, you know, trading with the government.
Right. This is the Standard. Have this sickly gentleman is cuffed on the Social Health Authority, and he's holding a pill, a very huge pill, that is written the Social Health Insurance Fund. Anaona njia inaelekea kwa universal healthcare, but he's worried.
Yeah.
And he's asking himself questions.
A bitter pill to swallow.
Yes.
And a bigger pill even more than himself. And he seems to be chained by Shah, of course, speaking perhaps to the tax that was introduced, and a lot of questions, of course, in his mind. That is in the cartoons.
And finally, on the cartoon on the Star, just to explain it to you, actually, there you have it. A gentleman there spilling the beans. He is on screen. Well, this goes to show the interview that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua had with Nation Media, and he was just spilling the beans there. You know, and there's a gentleman there watching. His hands are kimbo. He's wondering, okay. Yes, but there you have it. This and much more will be on State of the Nation coming up in a few with George Maringa.
Yes, indeed. Our guests are already here. I will be having that conversation with the three gentlemen. Two of them are already here, Philip Kisia and Kipruto Arab Kira. We wait to have that deeper conversation. Of course, we'll be joined later by Samuel Pugishu.
Oh, yes. Coming up at around 8 a.m., Monday Blitz, your weekly dose of matters sports. Just taking a look at what has been happening locally as well as internationally. And then at 9 a.m., we dig into the role of manufacturing in our economy right now. Do we really need manufacturing? How big of a deal is it? How much of revenue is it accruing for us as a nation? Don't go too far. This is Morning Cafe, hotter than your coffee.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, this is the morning cafe time now for State of the Nation. My guests are already here in studio. Philip Kisia, a leadership and governance expert. Thank you so much for joining us and good morning.
Good morning to you, George. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah.
Great to have you. Kikuto Arab Kira, former Agriculture Cabinet Minister. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, George. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. We'll be expecting Samuel Pogisio, a former Majority Leader of the Kenya Senate and former ICT Minister. Allow me, gentlemen, to pick your minds on what is happening. We are in the last month of the year. Happy New Month, by the way. And we expect to see a lot politically, and we may also not see a lot equally in the political scene. What do you make of the last, the last weekend on how things have gone? We've seen there is still a push and pull over the return of the money. Kimani Ichung'wah is claiming this money has not yet been returned. The Archbishop said the money has been returned, and I'll start with you, Mheshimiwa. What do you make of these events of the weekend where even the president said the state is not in the fight with the church?
Well, to say the least, it's riddled with a lot of confusion because at times you do not have to say that I'm in peace with so-and-so. You must demonstrate by whatever pronouncement that you make or that proceeds from your mouth. And I would have expected the state to take the line the president has taken, that there is no competition between the state and the church. And of course, it ought not to be there because each is playing their unique roles in terms of serving society. One elected, one provided to us by divine intervention or providence, and the two of them must coexist in a way that that's the only way we can have balanced society. The second issue, which I think we should all condemn, is what happened to the former deputy president in Limuru, where a number of goons visited him mayhem and almost destroyed the chairs, the tent, and also had some of the individual mourners. This is something that we must emphasize, that when people go to mourn, it is not just a simple game. It is something that we should take it seriously because there are people who are bereaved, there are people who have come to genuinely mourn, but others have come for political goonism, which should not be encouraged in our country. An event like that, if anything had happened to the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, today we'll be talking about another Kenya. So it may be a game that politicians think that, okay, let us show him what material we are made of. But once it escalates to another level, it becomes a disaster in the making. And a fragile nation like ours, given the events of the last 2 months, some of these events should not have taken place at this time. And any funeral should be considered a solemn occasion. Whether I like you or not, let us meet there. Each one of us will be mourning in his or our own style. But we should not make it an issue that we are going to settle our political scores.
Yeah. Kisia, what do you make of these events of the weekend? We did see what happened to the deputy president, as Mheshimiwa said, and over the weekend as well, the government saying it is not in a fight with the state is not in the fight with the church.
Thank you, George. Let me first of all say that church or religion was there even before government. In any event, religion is a form of government, okay? And as my brother Kirwa said, both have distinct roles they play in society. So at no point do they really come together. What we've seen in the past few days is really saddening. From the time we attained independence, we have seen the institution of government respecting religion, respecting the place of worship. But with this regime, we've seen an attempt to try and muzzle, to try and make religion or church part of government. Even during Moi's time, Moi respected church. Moi respected religion. He never interfered with the religion. But this particular regime has gone to every extent to make sure or to make an attempt to get church to be part of government. Church has got its own role. For heaven's sake, let them do what they're supposed to do. Government, you have so many challenges. Why would you want to interfere with the running of church? But what is important, and I'm happy that the church has woken up, and we have been looking forward to this moment, the spiritual five. We are missing them. And the church has duty to honor these people, to honor Okulu, to honor Mwana Wanzeki, to honor Muge, and those who fought for the second liberation. I'm happy that the church has come out of slumber and have taken the state head on. And indeed, if the church want to be seen as righteous, the church, when you're giving a gift to church, like this regime wants us to believe that they want to get involved in assisting the church with issues to do with development. Do you go announcing publicly that I put in so much? When you're tithing, do you make it a public matter? So if you want to help church, and I'm happy with what the religious leaders are saying, everybody before God is equal. If you are going to church to pray, please leave your title outside. Don't walk with the title into the church. Some of these characters, they want to be treated the way they are treated in the offices. They forget that the place of worship equalizes all of us, that we're equal before the eyes of God. And I fully concur with the religious leaders that that money that is given, it is not given with clean hands. It must be rejected. It must be returned. And in any case, it would appear as if that is not money that has been legally earned. So if it is dirty money, return it to the sender. There's no problem. The church has publicly rejected those donations which are not clean. Let them just be humble, take back their ill-rotten contributions and take them elsewhere. Yeah? Now, we witnessed something that was very, very unfortunate.
Okay.
The immediate former deputy president being attacked by goons. And I was reading the papers, one of the papers, to be specific, the Daily Nation. And the police, without identifying themselves, admitted that they had prior information. And I've said before that we have a very good intelligence system, okay, that is able to foresee, it is able to get this information, collect this information in advance, particularly when it involves an immediate former deputy president. So they have already told us that they had prior knowledge, that goons had been organized to come and attack an event, which was very solemn moment. You go and cause mayhem. You go and cause chaos. What picture are we sending to the international world? That we are crude, we are archaic, we are uncivilized? What sort of message are we sending? What sort of message are we sending even to our children? That this is how we run a country? It was most unfortunate, but let me say this, George.
Yes.
That people should not even for a second imagine that they have monopoly to violence. This is a wrong direction we are setting. This is not how a civilized organization or even community should be able to live. And those who, because I know, I've seen DCI arresting innocent Kenyans. We have seen. By now, the same DCI that moves with speed should have arrested those people who caused mayhem in an occasion that should be respected. So I'm really worried, because if this is the trend and we are 2-3 years away from election, what will happen in 2027?
Yeah.
Are we being prepared for chaos? And if that is the case, as people say, everybody for himself and God for us all. So please, let us be civil. Let us be civil. Because we've seen chaos take place in this country.
Civility.
And I can tell you, blood has been spilled. Let us not repeat the mistakes we made in the past.
Yeah, Mheshimiwa Kipruto, there is the whole issue of opposition, and at this point, there seems to be an interesting perspective on who is on the opposition per se, with the broad-based government coming into play. There is also Kalonzo Musyoka, who seemed to maintain that side of opposition, the likes of Martha Karua and all. The opposition has come up to slam government together with the church, and they have spoken on several issues. What do you make of the response, the specific message from the opposition to the government, and then the response from the government to such criticism, be it positive or negative? How ideally should this whole issue of opposition be able to play out in modern-day democracy in Kenya?
Yeah, George, it's a very interesting question, in the sense that today it is not clear who are rightfully in the opposition or who still claim that position of the opposition, given the fact that our big brother, the ODM party, has decided one morning it is in the government, the other day it is in the opposition. This creates a bit of confusion. But a number of us who are still strongly in the opposition, including our good friend Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua, and many other people, we strongly believe that the government of the day must be held to account, not because we not have a lot of time for it, but they have that mandate that they were given by the people of Kenya, that for the intervening period between 2022 and 2027, they are supposed to be the doers of anything that happens in Kenya insofar as public policy pronouncement is concerned. Of course, in so doing, they ought to keep to certain basic rules, basic decorum, basic understanding that they should not exceed the law. And that's why from time to time we call them to account that yes, here you have exceeded the law. That's why we said whatever happened in Limuru, we still condemn it. We condemn it because we don't want it to escalate to a level that it will be impossible for government to rein in. As people who have been around for quite some time, we know the post-election violence of 2007. We know what they were calling tribal clashes. When you allow them to escalate to a certain level, even the instruments of state will not be able to rein in any excesses that arise out of that. This therefore means we would rather deal with the issues before they escalate to another level. And if you ethnicize the country the way they want to, by hoping that they will be able to cow in the Honorable Gachagua into believing that he does not want him or his community to be isolated, that is the wrong direction to take, because at the end of the day, every community in Kenya matters. And more so, given the fact that the community that the Honorable Gachagua comes from comprises 26% of the voting bloc, and also comprises close to 50% of the African GDP. And this therefore means the two combined is an issue that you cannot right away and ignore as if it doesn't exist. What we need, as my good friend Philip Kisia, what we need to do is to improve our level of civility, to reign in good manners, and to start almost to be cultivating trust, which has increasingly gone down to the extent that people don't trust each other. Even people who were together 2 years ago, fighting from the same side of the equation, are now almost on separate lines. Remember when the Honorable Peter Mwadi was speaking good things about Rick G, he was told, no, this is the guy who made you get out of parliament. And Engineer Kiragu, who was supported by the immediate former deputy president, was seated on another tent, almost enjoying the melee that took place. Why do I say so? The same boys, if you are to carefully look at the videos, who are trying to visit mayhem on the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, are the same boys who escorted the Honorable Kiragu almost like he was their main patron or their don. So some of these things, yes, you may do it and you get away with it because you're on this right side of government, not right side of the law. But it is something temporary. When it escalates beyond whatever you call is an event, it can make this country get to almost tottering on the brink of a political disaster.
Yeah, Kisia, there's this whole story on the church, and we've seen pictures on screen, as you can see. There is a church actually in the western part of the country that actually accepted there's a bishop who accepted the offering from the president, and there's been that conversation on acceptance of these offerings just because and as you can see he's that receiving of that offering. What do you make on, in as much as there's you talk about the distinction, where is the line on integrity and all these issues? There has been that conversation in the previous regime where there was accusations, several accusations that followed the giving to these churches. The president has come out to say he himself is a product of giving. Where does that set the precedence? Does that mean then that whoever needs to go to church needs to be doing these things?
George, I said earlier, there shouldn't be a problem in giving to the church. Okay? Gifting the church, doing the work of Lord. But is it a public affair? Is it public? Must you give? What are you trying to confirm by publicly coming with millions of shillings in a gunia and publicly donating? What are you trying to achieve? When you are in church or in a religious setup,
yes,
you're just equal. So whatever gift you have, leave alone the means of acquiring that gift. Whatever you're gifting God should not be known by the other person. Okay? But you see, you must understand that we are living in very desperate times.
Yeah.
Yeah? And any form of gift, will be received by those people who are desperate. Okay?
Yeah.
So religious setups or these so-called churches who are desperate will definitely receive the brown envelope. But where the church is structured, there's a structure, proper structure, like maybe the Catholics and others who are structured, you can't just go and do as you wish because it is governed. The issue of governance is taken very, very, very seriously. It is not a one-man show where you go and gift George because there's no difference between George and the church itself.
Okay.
Because George is the bishop, the wife is a reverend, the son is a treasurer, the mother, I don't know, is probably the something.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, it's a family affair. So you can understand why politicians are taking advantage.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about my colleagues. I'm talking about the ones you know. You know, there are bad manners of, carrying stolen loot and taking it to church. So let us distinguish between churches, proper churches, mainstream, where there are proper structures, where there's proper governance. You will not see this nonsense taking place.
Indeed.
If they must receive, there is a way of receiving that gift, and it is accounted for. There are mechanisms of accounting. These are the small little churches that you hear, all over. They receive the money, it's not accounted. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
There's no difference between them and the Kenya Kwanza government. They don't believe in accountability. One man show. He or she is everything. So I'm not surprised, George.
Yes.
And politicians will continue giving. In this picture, a photo that you are displaying,
yes.
I can see my friend Ken Lusaka giving a gift of 5 million shillings from the president. The president the other day gave 5 million, now he's giving 5 million.
Yeah.
This man is wealthy. He's a wealthy man. He's
yes.
blessed. And I agree with him that is a product of giving,
yes.
but I doubt whether people are giving billions of shillings. Well, is there a product of billions of shillings? He is a product of something.
Yeah.
And Mheshimiwa Kiru and myself, we know him very well. We'll spare him. But this is not how to behave. If you want to gift anybody, be it a church, be it a friend who is bereaved or something, you don't make it public. You don't make it, you don't dramatize the whole thing.
Okay.
This is too dramatic.
Too dramatic.
It is bad manners. It's just bad manners.
Let's take a break as we simmer on that. That is just the tip of the iceberg. You're watching State of the Nation with me, George Maringa. We are back in a few minutes. Please do stay with us.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us right here on the Morning Cafe, serving you hotter than your coffee. By the way, where are you watching us from? Please go ahead and chime in your feedback. It's time for the State of the Nation. It's what we were discussing before the break. And to reintroduce my guests, Philip Kesia, Leadership and Governance Expert, Kipruto Arab Kirwa, former Agriculture Cabinet Minister, and we are now joined by Samuel Pogisho, former Majority Leader of the Kenya Senate and former ICT Minister. Mheshimiwa Samuel, allow me to pick your mind as we went up on this whole conversation on church giving, what we saw over the weekend. What do you make of this, whole issue of church and politics? President Ruto has emphasized that the state is not in a fight with the church. For 2 Sundays now, he has said, let's all work together, even quoting religious leaders. You've been a politician. Where do you throw this balance, or tough balance between giving in the church and quote unquote falling in the wrong graces of the public and the eyes of the public?
Thank you, and I think I would say I've been listening to my colleagues, and I think they're spot on the issue of giving to the church. If you're invited as a guest to the church, you can give. You should be allowed to give. Also, any Christian can give. I've worked for a church before, so I know the desires and the... sometimes churches have shortfalls, and they need money from Christians. So you can behave as one of the Christians in those churches and give, but give humbly, humbly. When I looked at the donation yesterday in Bungoma, it wasn't humble enough at all. There was no humility in that giving. It was, let's say, in your face. You guys said you don't receive, now you can see I'm giving you in public so that you can actually refuse or not, putting the bishop in a spot. And the bishop had no choice but to receive it because it was given in a school bag, but given also in a way that to show that we can do it and why not. And I thought that was not very humble. And I know Lusaka to be a very good Anglican, a very good Anglican. Remember, his late mother was actually a lay canon in the Anglican church. So they grew up in the Anglican church. They know exactly the rules, what to do. And what to do is the left hand, the church says. The right hand or the left hand should not know what the right hand is doing. But this one, both hands were doing it. So it's a bit difficult to understand why you would do such a thing. But I believe the politics of it is to show, give money and still show that the church is a pauper. And that's not a very good way of showing the church. The church will receive it anyway. And so you have to embarrass the church. So I did not like the demeanor of it. I did not like the way it was done. But, you're building a church. Bring what you have to bring, but bring it quietly and silently and with humility. I think that's what was missing in this. what has been left, what we've been left with was an egg in our face, because the church said we're not receiving some of this money. But here is a situation where the member is a very well-known member of the Anglican Church. You go through a member of the Anglican Church to give it to the Anglicans, and the show was not very good. So I would like to say that the next time you give money to the church, like you give money to your children, you don't make it public. You know, you're giving money to your relatives. You don't make it public. You give it in a way that is appreciated, but and yet not showing that we are beggars in this case. Yeah. I don't think I would have approved of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Gentlemen, let's now look at, last night Deputy President had an interview with one of the stations, and he did spill a lot. It's actually on page 8 of the Nation, and he says, Limuru, a port for brewing Gikuyu resistance, settling political scores. Where does this leave him? And I'll begin with you, perhaps, Mheshimiwa Kipruto Kirwa, on this whole issue of the former deputy president, where he's standing, what type of base, political base he's marshalling up, the type of arsenal he's trying to get to himself. We've seen he says he likes what Kalonzo Musyoka is saying. Are we back to 92 once again, where we will see the central part or the Mount Kenya region fielding several candidates, which will then split the votes?
Well, the usefulness of any political movement today, it is checked by the Constitution.
Okay.
Because prior to 2010 Constitution, it used to be first past the post. That's why I think 92 and 97, President Moi got less than 33% of all votes cast, but still was declared the candidate because he had the majority of votes, what we call simple majority. This time round, and I'm not suggesting that we should split our votes, we should be able to give a resounding win to our alliance in a way that we don't allow other people to cause mayhem or to go to court and petition that justice was not delivered. The deputy president has done well. You see, at times I call him former deputy president, at times I call him deputy president, because as it is today, yes, we know Professor Kithure Kindiki has been sworn in. But when it comes really to instruments of the law, up to now, that position has not been defined because there is still an active case in a court of law. This therefore means we might even reach a situation, should the court pronounce himself in one way or the other, that will be having two deputy presidents, one already sworn in and one legitimate but out of office. But that's not really the focus of our discussion. Our discussion is what is happening. And I put it that in a number of situations, we are still looking for each other. Bado tunatafutana. The way I see the Kenya of today is that we are still looking for realignments that make sense. And I pray that these realignments, as we look for each other, will be able to form a more binding kind of partnership, not akin to the one of UDA of 2022. And within 2 years, that partnership seemed to be tottering on the brink of disaster, which has happened. How would you have explained that in 2022, the person the current president picked as his running mate is now somebody totally in different sides of the equation with him? It means either somebody was doing it for the sake of winning the seat, or somebody did not prepare himself to understand what kind of person he was picking. Of course, those of us who were with them at that time, our advice was different, because examining the character of the two, and any student of industrial psychology would have known that is a partnership that was not going to last for more than 2 years. And indeed, it came to pass. Well, without giving ourselves credit, we saw it come. and it has been confirmed. My take is to pray that any political formation must be hinged on strong principles that we want to make a difference in Kenya. We want to tolerate each other. We want to build trust that has gone solo, and we want to look at this as not our game. It's the game of the people of Kenya who need a government that is durable, that is believable, that also does not make promises when they know they have no capacity to fulfill the same or to meet the basic demands of a decent society.
Yeah, Kisia, the Deputy President has gone ahead to spill the beans in a different format, compared to how you would have expected to see things in the past. He calls himself the honest man. There is a lot happening in the Kikuyu nation. What do you make of all this that the former DP has been talking about?
When I started off by saying that the immediate former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, is a truthful man, in fact, some of my colleagues here were laughing at me. And they were wondering how I had taken a 360. I was just being truthful, because I'm also a very truthful man, and I speak the truth. I think we've come to a time where politics of deceit, politics of cronyism, politics of conmanship needs to be brought to a stop. We must stop. Politics of convenience, marriages of convenience must stop. We need to move to politics of ideology, and like my brother Kira said, programming, vision, and policies. We need to ask ourselves what really should be gluing us together, what should be bringing us together, be it matters of politics, where we have common interests. What should bring us together? Should we be looking at short term, or should we be looking at long term? But again, George, if you look at even the preamble of our Constitution, it is very clear. It talks about being committed to what? Being committed to the values of family. It proposes that we need strong family units. Then from there, community, strong community values, and a strong community. And then, of course, those two will breed a strong and formidable nation. So there's nothing wrong in people organizing themselves at family units, because you must start from there, because you can't talk of national unit when your family is crumbling. You can't talk of a national unit when there's no community. So we must have all these communities that will form the nation. Therefore, Rigathi Gachagua, in my view, is on the right trajectory. He is doing extremely well. He is organizing his people in line with what the preamble of the Constitution has said, and then hoping that now we meet together as a nation and speak in one voice. The only thing that we should be careful about is, pushing these tribal sentiments, because it's fairly backward. We should, discourage. But unity from family and community levels, it is something that nobody should oppose. Now, I was expecting more from Digiji. I didn't have the luxury of watching him. I did wanted to watch him yesterday, but I didn't have that luxury. Okay? I wanted him to focus on things that are ailing this country. Why is how come under the two of them who are joined at the hip, how come they collapse the economy? How come they fail to fulfill the promises they made? Jobs for our children. I wanted him to tell us how come they kill our children. This administration, the Gen Z, over 60 children were killed. And then during Maandamano, again, we lost Kenyans. I wanted him to come out and say, who gave instructions? Who gave instructions for the security agencies to mute violence on our children. I was expecting more from him, who indeed is corrupt in this government of Kenya Kwanza, because there must be a captain, there must be a general who is in charge of corruption. I wanted Riggy G to tell the public. But what really, George, what really made me happy,
yes,
and sad at the same time, is the admission of Riggy G that indeed this Adani thing that we've all been talking about, this Adani thing, this corrupt Adani thing, never went through the subcommittee of cabinet.
Of cabinet.
You know, all serious matters be conversed in the relevant committee of cabinet, exhaustively. You exhaust, then you come up with a position, then you take it to cabinet for concurrence or approval. But Riggy G is telling us that although he was deputy president, although there are subcommittees of cabinet who should deal with those issues, you know, in detail, and then come up, this thing was done in secrecy. Therefore, the position that Kenyans took and we took, together with my brothers and many other brothers and sisters, that this thing was riddled with corruption. Indeed, this thing was stinking.
Yeah.
But I expect as we move forward for Riggy G to give us more. I want him to vomit and to tell Kenyans where the problem is.
Indeed. Before you come to Mheshimiwa Pogisho, let's even listen to what the Deputy President spoke about on that issue of sub-cabinet committees.
That cost me heavily to always tell him that. Excellency, allow me to interject, because you have said that yes, you sat in cabinet and you cannot divulge issues discussed in cabinet. This is a matter in public. This is a matter already addressed by the head of state when he announced that cancellation at the National Assembly and the Senate when he made his State of the Nation address. You certainly owe it to the people of Kenya to tell them that this is what the country was getting into in Adani. Who was tasked to do what in cabinet, and how exactly was this deal reached? When was it signed? Those are the questions that Kenyans are watching today. I have told you clearly. I've told you clearly that nobody involved me. Had it come to the cabinet committee that I chair, I would have had all the details, because that is a very exhaustive forum that I used to chair. I will be able to get to know from the beginning to the end. But cabinet is basically formality. And certain things, President will decide they come direct to cabinet without coming to the cabinet committee. So are you saying, because you gave us a track record of how many cabinet subcommittees you chaired while in office. Yeah. This was at a time when some quarters were saying you did not perform as deputy president. Are you saying that in the many committees you hosted or you chaired?
Mheshimiwa Pogisho, you've listened and you've seen what the former deputy president has had to say. What is this disharmony that the former DP seemed to have found himself in, and all of a sudden he seems to have come out to say, I saw this, I want this, I want it. How difficult is it when you're actually even in cabinet to be able to point and say this is not right? Is it very difficult, especially when you're in the executive?
George, it's difficult to compare governments and leadership at that particular time. I worked under President Mwai Kibaki, the late president.
Yeah.
And he did not, have a problem with us doing our subcommittees. He allowed us to do subcommittees. Subcommittees of cabinet were very, very active. In this case, I can hear now from the deputy president, the former deputy president, that subcommittees were subjected to some restrictions. They were not free to hold their subcommittees, and whatever they reported was not taken seriously. It's very difficult for our friend Riggy G to remove himself from the position he held. Apparently, he's still very much controlled by what he thinks that he's still a deputy president. I don't know why he thinks he still thinks that cabinet matters cannot be disclosed. He was kicked out of the place. He did not retire. So he's not held by the law that says that you cannot speak about things that happen. He's free man now because he's been kicked. He was kicked out ruthlessly. And because of that, you're definitely not held by those things. So you should be able to speak to us. You should be able to tell us what he went through. You should be free to tell us what he went through. However, I believe that it depends on the leadership of the cabinet. The cabinet I served in, we really had opportunity to express ourselves, to do our thing and report to cabinet. Cabinet papers were the most important things. Cabinet committees were the most important things during that time. I just want to add that listening to Riggy, listening to him, and he has an opportunity here to tell us more. I'm sure we are waiting for more because he's going to do it. Now that he realizes that he really should not be bound by any law that says that you cannot speak publicly about the things you knew. Because he should tell us exactly what happened to him in his position. It's a bit disadvantaged because some of the things that happened, which are not very good, he was part and parcel of it because he was a deputy president, okay? And some of the words he spoke that time would disadvantage him. But as my colleague would say, he was a truthful man. Truth to power. Let him be truthful to power. Let him speak to power and say, this is exactly what we did, this is what we didn't do. We were wrong here, we were right here. I think that will bring him to a place where we can accept that he was actually truthful. Let him speak truth to all of us. And I think the reason why a lot of these politicians now are trooping to churches to speak their matters in church, the church has become the only avenue now left for politicians. Weekend rallies are not noticed. If they call for rallies, they're not noticed. But church is noticed. Everybody is now trooping to church. When you're in church, can the truth be told in church? I'd like to see the president, the former deputy president, anybody who troops to church be challenged this way. You are in church, speak the truth and tell the truth to our people. Don't go there to tell lies. Go there and speak the truth.
Okay. Kisia, there is this whole issue we've seen about what's happening with, Bamburi cement and all that is happening over the weekend. What is this all about?
George, it is extremely unfortunate to scandalize, to victimize a Kenyan who is doing genuine business, who has gone to all lengths to look for money to acquire a huge stake in a foreign company that is domiciled in our republic. Bamburi, 60% of Bamburi is owned by a company called Lafarge. Lafarge is a French company. They are offloading their shares. They put this in the market. We have a Kenyan by the name of Savannah Clinker. Savannah Clinker goes to the US, looks for money, and makes a bid of almost 28 billion Kenya shillings at a share value of 76.7. Then we have our neighbor, and I have no problem with our neighbors. They are Africans. They come in with a bid of about 23.5 billion at a share value of 65. Okay? The two of them go through the process. Each one of them is given a fair chance to make a counter offer. The Tanzanian company fails to make a counter offer or to match the offer given by the first bidder, the Savannah Clinker. Then what do? You try and create roadblocks everywhere. The Rigiji roadblocks, Mitego everywhere, Mitego. The first Mutego you put for a Kenyan the first motego you put is to do what? Is to call the bank. We are told from, instructions from above. This above, I don't know if that, I hope this above is God. I hope and I pray. But we are told some instructions came from above saying, drop off from that transaction. Then the bank that was supposed to be the paying bank locally drops off from the transaction. They pull out. What is that meant to do? Is to collapse the deal. Thank God there's another bank, NCBA, which has confidence in a Kenyan. They come to the rescue of this Kenyan. They accept to transact. And I'm told again, I am hoping that this powers from above is God. This above fellow again comes, puts pressure on this other bank. Thank God that this bank was firm, because they said this is a legit transaction and this is a Kenyan company. We have done our due diligence and this is business, even for the bank. So it is most unfortunate, and I'm not here to speak for a Savannah Clinker, but I'm speaking for a Kenyan company. It is most unfortunate that even after securing, what do you call it?
Bid.
A bid, not a bid, bid bond. Not bid bond, but after being the courts issuing an order, the courts issued an order for this man to be released because he was arrested, picked on Thursday. The courts give an order, please release this gentleman. Friday, they dilly-dally. They're given orders by 3:30. They dilly-dally, they disappear. They do some disappearance act. They do this right around a business, they disappear. 5 o'clock, they come back and say, the offices are closed. This is the most unfortunate thing. Even if you want to frustrate somebody, have some little intelligence, have some little manners. But, harassing a Kenyan who has worked so hard, what are you doing to investors, local investors and foreign investors? What message are you sending to these people? It is most unfortunate. But the question, because, we all come from a community, all of us. We come from somewhere. So, because people know I come from somewhere. The question that people are asking me, Kiongozi, our leader, does it mean that lawyers were condemned to be cooks and watchmen? When a lawyer makes it big, it's a big issue, it's a problem. People lose sleep. This is a Kenyan who needs to be congratulated, who needs to be supported so that they are able to not only acquire Bamburi, they acquire, even encourage other Kenyans to venture into such business. So for me, it was, most unfortunate. And in any event, where have you heard that where there is a dispute between shareholders, that a DCI goes full throttle? It's a dispute between shareholders. Where have you heard that the government intervenes between two shareholders? That me and Kiro having a problem as shareholders, and government comes in with full force. Where have you? What? This bad manners, surely. I mean, it doesn't. It's just poor. It's unfortunate that you can do this, and even probably if somebody wanted a piece of cake, it's like when you've seen a beautiful girl, man. Yeah, you go with some style. You don't go with the roughness. Go with some little style, and persuade that girl that that you are a viable candidate. Don't go with roughness. This roughness needs to stop. We need to have some good manners.
Okay. Gentlemen, you want to chime in?
Yes.
You want to chime into that as well?
Let me say this. I saw the information in the media. Of course, I happen to know the gentleman who is under trouble. And I'm happy my brother Philip Kisia has been able to explain the genesis of it all. Because I was wondering, and some people in a court of law were saying, our brother is a flight risk. How can somebody who has invested billions of shillings in Kenya run away to any other destination for purposes of running a court case that is faulty from the beginning? Without going into the merits and demerits of the case, it is important that we must, as a government, learn to promote our own entrepreneurs. We cannot be talking of foreign investors coming in, and yet our own local people, we are frustrating. Companies which are in Kenya, we are frustrating. I saw the president the other day admitting that Tanzania is now having a high volume of business compared to what Kenya was doing among the East African states. And he did not realize that he's part of the trouble. He's the one who brought housing levy, and many companies relocated from Kenya to Tanzania or Uganda and made their manufacturing hub, either Uganda or Tanzania, only for Kenya to become the distribution network for some of those companies. And for every little gain that a company may see on the other side of the border, they don't see why they should be in Kenya. After all, the cost of doing business in Kenya is high, not because of transport alone. It's also high because the cost of living in Kenya is slightly higher than in our East African states. But George, allow me to say something that was earlier visited by my good friend and colleague, the Honorable Samuel Pogisho. You know, the issue of government operations, and especially in the cabinet, and that's why we talk of collective responsibility. Collective responsibility is a product of whatever happens in government. All members of the cabinet should have sufficient knowledge so that you don't divulge what another ministry is doing, but you must have sufficient knowledge. How do we get that sufficient knowledge? A paper emanates from a ministry. For example, if it is Ministry of Trade, if it is Ministry of Transport, but that paper is escalated to the subcommittee of the cabinet, because a subcommittee of the cabinet, in the sense that the cabinet can only be a committee when the president does chair. But any other level of chairing is deemed to be a subcommittee of the cabinet. And it's at that level that most of the issues are properly distilled. Technical staff from various ministries comprising that particular docket, whether it's service industry, whether it is food security subcommittee, all issues are distilled at that level. And once they are happy, and some of the experts are involved in that particular level, then the paper is escalated now to the cabinet, where the minister responsible does the prosecution of the paper, and other ministers across the floor will also make their input. And I remember during our tenure, some of the papers were returned to the ministries that had originated the paper, because the comments from across the floor indicated that there was something lacking in that particular paper. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because this regime, as what we call experts or advisors, these are the people who are creating convolution in the working of the cabinet, where the president, with assistance of one or two advisors, will get a good idea, and without processing through the normal system of the cabinet doings, makes it an issue that now is escalated to a higher level and is made like a project. The case of Adani and many other projects that have been visited with negative feelings by society. So Rigji may not have spilled everything, but he was very clear, even before, when he was still sitting deputy president, he was very clear. There was a funeral in Trans Nzoia where the late Victor Okioma was being buried, and the Honorable Senator for Kisii County, the Honorable Richard Onyonka, made a statement in that funeral about Adani. And the deputy president ignored that particular statement and did not make a comment about it. I'm told the powers that be visited mayhem on him that evening, that how come that you want the government to be condemned and you are doing nothing in front of the cameras, you did nothing about this issue. So it was very clear from the beginning, and I'm made to understand he stood very firm that yes, these are done anything I don't know anything about, and unless I know more about what's happening in Adani, I'm likely not to make any comment on it. Of course, you remember also I want to exonerate him from the feeling that he's not saying enough. You remember the press conference he held in Mombasa immediately after the president made a State of the Nation address.
Yes.
Or some kind of address, anyway, I can't remember the details.
Course, yeah.
And it was very clear that abductions was not one of the issues they had agreed. Killings of youth was not one of the issues they had agreed. And therefore, he was able to risk. It's only unfortunate, George, that we, in the political class, we are always doubted, not only by the media, but by the general public. When you say something, they say, would you have said that if you were in government? Because at times we are held on a higher scale of being expected to speak the truth than ordinary members of society. Finally, when you listen to Ibrahim Karanja interviewing the former deputy president,
yes,
I found that Karanja was going with some kind of combative attitude. It was like there was some preconceived ways of asking him questions without allowing him, and almost cross-examining, almost making it to look like he was in a court of law. And therefore, because I am not a journalist and I don't want to pretend that I know anything about journalism, but I would expect a good journalist must ask you a question, and it's up to the public to make conclusion whether you meet the threshold of the truth or that issue cannot stand in a court of law. It's not for him to tell you this one does not qualify, because the truth is a relative aspect of speaking. And therefore, don't condemn your interviewee without giving him the benefit of letting the public make its own conclusion about the person.
Okay, let's enter the home stretch, and I'll begin with you, Mheshimiwa Pogisho. On page 14 of the Daily Nation, we are reminded of today in history, and it's a picture where former President Uhuru Kenyatta and now current President William Ruto were exchanging the hats, the caps, on, as they merged into, the Jubilee, the National Alliance, TNA, and United Republican Party, when they unveiled their union at Afraha Stadium in Nakuru, as politicians, race to seal pre-election agreements ahead of the deadline that was the next day. Looking at this whole situation and how later on things have played out, and when you look at the alliance and the seeming formations that are, there's so many tectonic plates moving right now, especially on Mount Kenya region. Kalonzo Musyoka's entry, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said he likes what he says. What do you make about the issue of political friends, and it's all about interests and what will shape moving forward?
George, I was actually part and parcel of that exchange of hats. I was present in Afra. and so I do know that the politicians who target higher offices, for example, William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta at that point, were agreeing on who would become president, who would become deputy president. You kind of have to give up. Like you give up your hat so that we can wear a different hat. And that went very well. Afra Stadium was the scene of this thing. But generally, as they say, politics is not about it's about interests. It's more about interests. Politics is about interests. And so when your interests change, you change. So politicians should actually belong to their own group of churches. They should build their own group of churches where the faith changes depending on what you want. The truth of the matter is that if you heard what William Ruto was saying about Raila Odinga a few months ago, if you heard about what Raila Odinga was saying about Ruto a few months ago, you can't believe what has happened. This is different. So our faith should be, politicians should have their own mosque, they have their own church, because the way they behave, the turncoats they become, and so on. And I'm saying that because I'm also a politician.
Yes.
But the truth is, if you want to become the president of this country, Rigiji, let's take for example Rigiji, and the Kenyatta family. He had to go and apologize to the Kenyatta family, say, I'm sorry, I did this. But when he spoke on the day of inauguration, he didn't think about it. He spoke those words that he spoke. But later on, because of interests, we can actually say, I'm coming home. Like the prodigal son, it says like the prodigal son coming home, and he says, treat me not as your son. But because of interests, that boy who came back was given more than the son who was actually at home. So what are we saying? We're saying that please give politicians their chance. Don't try to interpret what they're saying. It's a very difficult class to interpret what they're saying. Allow them to do their thing. If they succeed and become president, that is the goal that they had, and they were going to go in that direction.
Let's listen to what he said yesterday, and then I'll also pick your mind on the same, especially on what he said about trusting former Deputy President, saying he trusted President William Ruto as a Christian.
I don't regret having supported President William Ruto. One, I got the opportunity to serve and to learn. And I am a wiser person, I'm more knowledgeable, and I have more experience. The mistakes I made then, I will not make them now. The only regret I have is that I dealt with President William Ruto as a Christian.
All right.
I trusted him. I believed in him. Whatever he told me, I took it as the truth and acted blindly.
Excellency.
Another day, given another opportunity, I'll engage him as a politician. And as a politician, you trust nobody. But again, I'm also happy that I served with him because I've also known him. And President Kenyatta had told us many things. And we doubted. Now that I know. So I am happy that I worked with him. I know him. And along the way, the people of Kenya, we all know who he is.
All right.
As we move on.
Excellency, we are really pressed for time. But a section of Kenyans want the entire political leadership out, be it President William Ruto, yourself, Raila Odinga, everyone, and have a complete fresh start. What makes you qualify for that fresh start?
Whatever decision the people of Kenya make, we go with it. The people are sovereign, and we must respect the will of the people. If along the way the people of Kenya feel they want to do away with all of us, I included.
All right.
So be it.
Gentlemen, I heard you reacting to what he said.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I was saying. And he believes he's a wiser man now. So you have to experience politics before you become any wiser. And I agree with him. Truth be told, things have to change for him to realize that. When he was deep in power, he did not realize that this was a politician. He believed he was a Christian and did what he needed to do. I worked with almost all the presidents except Jomo Kenyatta. I've worked with Moi, I worked with Kibaki, I worked with Uhuru. I have not worked with this president. But I've worked with this president when he, of course, was...
In different capacities.
Different capacity, yes. But not as president. I've not worked with him yet. And I can tell you that the development of William Ruto from 1997, or before that, from 1992, has been the target of becoming the president of this country. And if it took him to jump 40 feet to become that president, he would do it. And so during that time, he would join this party, come out of it, join this party, because he wanted to be the president of this country. And I tell people that William Ruto was never, the pauper that people say he was, or the poor man that he was. William Ruto always wanted to become president from university. He planned it, and he became, in 1992, he was no longer a poor man. from 1992. Because, I mean, YK92 people, I think somehow got money. I don't know where they got the money from, but the money came. And all of them targeted to succeed the presidents of the country. I believe that today, even with Rigiji withdrawing himself from that order, if he has another chance to become president, if William Ruto says today, come, and you become our candidates, he will come. It's politicians' way of looking at how I want to end up in the presidency. Today, I want to end up in the presidency myself. I can never become that kind of person without having to compromise or change my nature. And that's the problem with politicians in Africa or anywhere else, because we don't work on policies. We work on impulsions. We work on ukarabati, if you can call it. In developed countries, you stand by your policies. You're known by your party politics. You are either in the left, on the left, in the center, on the right, and you stay there. So when the people desire the right, they'll come for you. If the people desire the centrists, they come for you. If the people desire the left, they come for you. But you cannot continue jumping from left to right to. But anyway, I do wish. First of all, I must say that I wish there is a formation now. Rigiji, Sujuka Alonso, all of us, whoever wants to join, let's form a party or an organization, a political organization based on where we want to take this country. Let's try and form a policy that is favorable to the people of Kenya and move it in that direction if you want to change the future of this country. If we are flip-flopping, we are just seasonal, we don't stand for anything, this country will never go far.
Let's get into the home stretch. Kisia, and I'd like to combine your thoughts with the foreign policy that President William Ruto is set to launch today. It's been a process in the works. Are you confident that perhaps we will reshape and re-emerge as the country that perhaps we would like to be? The last foreign policy was the 2014 one. Do you think that if you've interacted with it, I don't know if you've interacted with the current foreign policy, if it meets the aspirations and desires as a country?
Well, you've seen all the foreign policies that William Ruto has been engaged with from the time he took over power have actually fallen flat on his foot. So I don't expect much even from the one that he's launching today, because that is his own foreign policy. When you're developing a foreign policy, you must take so many things into consideration. But I might just say that I wish him well. I hope that he's learned something out of the mistakes that he has made in the past. And because the minister in charge of foreign affairs is a fairly sober man, I'm sure that that document will be better than the documents that they have produced before. But in closing, let me say this. I listened to Rigiji, from the clip that we just played. And he has reminded me about so many things that experience cannot be acquired even at the best university. I remember my lecturer in Harvard telling me that you must experience something to learn, okay? So we've all learned from the mistakes that Rigiji made, and it has been a learning curve. But he actually talked about President William Ruto directly. He has said he is not an honest man. That is him, Rigiji. If you are not honest, you are dishonest. He has said that you cannot trust somebody. If you cannot trust somebody, you are untrustworthy. He has said that he was dealing with President William Ruto as a Christian. He has now come to discover that he may not be a Christian. Therefore, he is deceitful. In closing, my appeal to President William Ruto, we are losing so many of our children, the doctors, because of grueling routines, stressful routines. To train a doctor is not like to train just an ordinary fellow. It takes 6 to 7 years to deliver a doctor. And we are having our doctors like may he soul rest in peace, Dr. Riungu. We've just come to learn that Dr. Riungu had not eaten food for 48 hours because of his working timetable. Then we are unable even to pay our doctors and interns, but we have money to spend in Haiti. We spend 2 billion of our money in Haiti instead of paying teachers and doctors. We are asking for another 17 billion to spend in Haiti on a mission that even Trump has said it's a useless mission and is not going to spend even $1. Russians have rejected. China has rejected. I am pleading with my good friend and my president, William Ruto, to return our boys home. Please return our boys home. They have no business being in Haiti. We have no business spending billions of shillings in Haiti when we cannot even pay doctors, we cannot pay interns, we cannot pay lecturers, we cannot feed ourselves. We need to determine what is priority to Kenyans. Haiti is not a priority. Bring our boys back home, President Ruto.
Okay. Kipruto.
Yeah, the document they are launching today, I do hope, will be better than the one they launched in 2014. But at times we launch documents, but we don't own them. Because every policy, every foreign policy should be what is in it for Kenya for us to be able to launch that document. Because it is our interest first, then the interest of the rest of the countries, because that's the essence of what we call diplomacy is all about. Will they be able to keep it to the letter and the spirit of the document they are launching today? The answer is, I don't know. Finally, I want to share the same sentiments about this Dr. Timothy Riungu, the person who said he just collapsed in his sofa back at home. The stress-related workplace challenges are many, and some of them are created by the state. Why do I say so? When you make people work so many hours without thinking of the human element, because of scarcity of doctors and interns, you are actually precipitating that disaster. Today, we are still reeling in the issue of Shisha and also NHIF. I said the other day, and I still repeat today, that the people working at NHIF that are now supposed to transit, we need to make it clear for them. Many of them are still reeling in pain because they don't know whether they are going to be part of the new outfit that is taking over from NHIF. The last time I knew is that any law that creates a new institution must take care of the transition. But you are leaving many Kenyans in that state of transition without certainty. It is something that any responsible government should be able to engage in and make Kenyans feel comfortable that they are not being rejected because of corruption, because the corruption that has been pervading the NHIF is corruption at the top, not at the level of the workers, ordinary workers who come to work in the morning and they go home in the evening looking for a loaf of bread for their own children and their dependents.
Amashama Pagisha, get the last word.
Well, I'd like to offer a training on trust. There is a trust deficit in the country. In every situation, people who are employed by government are suffering. They are losing trust in the government. In fact, there might be a ghost law in the places of work. This country is staring at a situation where the workers no longer trust their government. And so I'd like to say that to the president and all those in power, that please work. There is a great trust deficit in the country. Work to restore it. Otherwise, this country is staring at a very difficult situation for everybody.
Absolutely. What a way to wind the show this morning. A State of the Nation. Been speaking to the Honorable Samuel Pogisio, former Majority Leader of the Kenya Senate and former ICT Minister, as well as Philip Kisia, Leadership and Governance Expert in the Middle, and finally Kipruto Arap Kirwa, former Agriculture Cabinet Minister. My name is George Maringa. That's why we wind up State of the Nation this morning. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Up next is Standing Nyarungita.
BK. This is the home of scholars who believe in providing local solutions to global problems. Those who treasure internationally recognized quality university education and view the world as a global village.
Muribanji, we are Malawian students studying at Mount Kenya University.
We are from Liberia.
From Ivory Coast.
We are South Sudanese students at Mount Kenya University, and we are proud to be here.
Watch the inspiring documentary of Mount Kenya University this Thursday at 6:45 p.m. on TV 47.
It's official. Kepler 45-2B. The biggest music festival in East and Central Africa inafanyika Kenya. Yes, ni Mzuka Fest. Gala edition going down in Kisumu City on the 14th December. Tukutane Jomo Kenyatta Stadium Mambo Leo, Kisumu kuanzia saa 8 mchana kwa burudani ya kipekee. Live on stage atakuwepo the legendary Koffi Olomide. Mama Rifana Tuba. Prince Inda.